Welcome to the Village Boy Podcast. This is part two, and this is your host, Trez. Part two of the Let's Boycott African Businesses. And they did not isolate, they did not distinguish which businesses the way boycott. They want to boycott for August 1st, which is in a couple of days. We've done part one of this segment where we talked about uh, understanding the difference between the ADOS people and the FBA people. The ADOS people felt as a pressure group, they couldn't develop their mission. There was no reparations coming, and they have decided to infiltrate the FBA group, and they're now intoxicating and bringing that negative energy, negative spirit from the ADOS failed project. It's a failed project at this time. I followed that project closely, and I knew it was not going to succeed. But they have morphed and transitioned into the FBA project, and now they're at the time, at least, they were going after the government. They wanted reparation. They wanted to isolate themselves. They were a superior Black group of people. They did not consider themselves Africans. They did not want to be attached or identified with anything related to Africa. It was an insult for an ADOS person to tell an ADOS person that you descend or you come from the people of Africa. This was historically a nasty, dirty insult towards them. And as their project failed, which was bound to fail because that kind of hatred cannot be sustainable, they didn't go away. They pretty much just slowly went into the FBA, Foundational Black American Movement, which was a powerful movement that was bringing together the Black sub-Saharan Africans and the Black Americans that came here through chattel slavery. And you could see through the year of the return in Ghana, through the December festive periods in Nigeria, and some other parts of Africa, Johannesburg and South Africa, where a lot of foundational Black Americans were now going to the continent, because for the longest time, the continent was cut off from foundational Black Americans. But in the last 10 years, there has been a historic push, and the ADOS people did not want this, so they had to infiltrate so that connection. And you have to wonder who is sponsoring the ADOS group that does not want to see Black people unite, does not want to see an amalgamation of the Black family, Haitians, Jamaicans, Cubans, the Dominicans, any Black person from any part of the world coming together to fuse and create a production capacity as not seen before. There has to be somebody that does not want to see this relationship. It does not mean there's going to be kumbaya, love, and respect all the time. It just means that for the purpose and sake of business, this is our collective interest. Let's go ahead and play this video to understand the extent to which this distinction and division, because in the world of business, people are trying to come together. But in the world of the ADOS family that has infiltrated the FBA family, they're trying to break people apart, gatekeep things that are business structures that need to be out there for people to consume, for money to return back into the Black family, but they're willing to gatekeep those kind of aspects. So let's watch Team Black, who I think is one of those ADOS people. It's a brother that I followed for a long time, but his claws, his shadows beginning, his 5 o'clock shadows beginning to show that he's historically an ADOS person that has morphed into FBA, but he's using politically correct language like, I respect Nigerians, I respect Ghanaians, but we're not the same. We're not equal people. You're in my country and you have to respect me, blah, blah, blah. You have to do this. No other person talks like that except the Ku Klux Klan and this ADOS people. Those are the only people talking about purity, purifying, keeping something in its pure format. Those are the only two people, the Klan and the ADOS people. These are the only people, and those limited people in the FBA that are talking about they are not black, they are pure blood, they're not Africans, they are pure blood black, they don't want to mix with other black. That sounds like Klan rhetoric. So while people are talking about the boycott, I like to understand the root of something. How did we get here? Why is there a boycott between black people that in a very competitive, resource limited country like the United States are fighting against one another? Why are we distinguishing ourselves between who is a black, who is an African? Africans have non-black people. They're white people. The richest man in the world is an African. But FBA is not factoring that when they're talking about that rich man. They're talking about the Ghanaian person, the Cameroonian person, the Senegalese person, somebody they can beat down. You are always talking to the person you can beat down. You don't normally talk to the richest man in the world and call him out because you cannot. So let's listen to Team Black spout why ADA's FBA members should delineate themselves, separate, but not be part of a black coalition of builders. Tim Black is here.
Boycott going on right now because of disrespect to the Black American community. This is about the survival of Black Americans. We're in a competition. Africans and Latinos are fighting Black Americans for resources. Black Americans boycotting isn't crazy. It's necessary.
This is the reason why Africans are upset about boycotting those braid shops. You're bringing too much attention to them. Some real illegal stuff is going down at these braid shops. You see this modern day slavery. And this person is from Togo. I'm sorry if I pronounce that the wrong way. I don't speak African, but look, from 2002.
This is the level of ignorance that at that point we were supposed to stop this conversation. Togo, he does not speak African. What does that even mean? He does not speak African. How do you take somebody seriously when they're this ignorant? What does I don't speak African mean? So if you're not even sure about the message that you're trying to put out there, should you be the face of the message? Should you be the messenger? I mean, this is a brother that just cannot tell you where Togo is on the map. May not even know what the map of Africa looks like. He does not even know if Africa is a continent or a country. Should you listen to somebody like this? Does he have your best interest at heart when the message he is trying to communicate is clouded with ignorance? I don't speak African. I'm not from Togo.
2002 to 2007, he trafficked 20 hair braiders, all young girls. Y'all reading this, right? Even the coast they come from, they call it the slave coast. Some real shady business is happening at these African braid shops, right? And this article is an old article from 2020, but let me put you up on some new game. Look at these work conditions. They have these young women working 12 to 14 hours, and they physically assault them. Abuses happening with these women, and they coming from all West Africa. These businesses been from Newark, New Jersey, Detroit. Yeah, some of y'all may be supporting modern day slavery or human trafficking. So this boycott might be a good thing.
Okay. I'm not gonna sit here because first of all, I have not known about any form of slavery that's happening in the head. This is not a space that I operate in, and if that's happening, that should be faced with the harshest sanctions from the law. based on the country that's happening in. People should not be abused at their place of employment in any capacity. It's not because that they're Africans that make it special or different. It's that the person is committing a crime. Their origin has zero bearing on the crime that they're committing. If you find out that in a hair braiding shop, there are people that are being abused and there are people that look like it's some kind of slavery condition going on, you should report it to the authority, not because it's an African doing it, because there is somebody doing something wrong. Nike, the biggest American sporting brand, has used sweatshops with children working in those shops to produce products that Black Americans consume. And the boycotts have not put Nike out of business. Nike is still producing products to this day that Black Americans are still consuming. Where was the boycott? Where was the we are not going to consume Nike product forever and a day again? Bangladeshi kids were producing your sweatshirts. Chinese kids, Indian kids were producing your basketballs, all the kind of products that you use, your Jordans, the products that you use. And where was the boycott from the Black community that was boycotting Nike? But let's listen to my main man here, ADOS / AFBA brother, solidify his take on this.
I don't think all of us understand just how toxic things have gotten online. Yeah, you know, for many years we've had Africans attacking Black Americans saying that we don't have culture. They came to the U.S. and what do? A good portion of them make disparaging, horrific comments, stereotypical comments, the same comments that bigoted white folks make, they make. They make the same comments. They look at us through the lens of those bigots. So what are people who are sitting here in America, Black Americans in America, how are we supposed to take all of this? Africans know it exists. The Africans that are keeping it real, they know it's true. They know that if it's not them, they know that if they were to hook up with Black Americans, have friends with Black Americans, or brought their Black American friends to the house or whatever, that they would catch hell from their people. They know it. They don't even deny it. So why are they acting surprised that Black people are pushing back? It should be a given. Once again, when you treat someone badly, them rejecting you should be a natural cause. Now, look, man.
Let's keep that in context. When you treat somebody badly, they're probably going to reject you. That's what Team Black said. In his expression, African Americans or Africans. And again, some of those appellations. You are in America, you are foundational Black American, and you're labeling yourself African American. And the immigrants that came from Africa and became American citizens cannot even call themselves African Americans. They're forever labeled Africans because a class of people that have Black Americans, historic, their foundation, their roots is in this country, own that label now, just like the North American name, the United States American, you've owned it. And the people that need to share that name with you cannot even share the name with you. And so forever and a day, you are always going to see them as a foreign entity, as something foreign, when Europeans are being integrated every day into this country. They're Czech, Polish, all of those Eastern European people that live in America that cannot speak a lick of English, like the Hispanics or like some other foreign people that cannot speak English. You don't pick a fight with them. You don't call them European Americans. You don't call them European. As soon as you see them, you think that they're white Americans. But if you see an African that has lived in America for 60 years, they are always going to be African. There's not space for you to accommodate this person and see them as an American. And so when you create that distinction, when you create that separation, you will never work together. You will never be associates. You will never be partners because you have distinguished, and the distinction is always based on superiority and inferiority. See, foundational Black, in fact, the ADAs, like I said earlier, see themselves as superior Black people. And every other person, especially the Africans, are the worst. They're the lowest Black people on earth. The Haitians, the Islanders, the ADAs folks and the radical FBAs are more willing to accommodate this group of people than the Africans, when there's an entire continent that we need to partner and build business structures together. I wanted to ask Tim Black this question. I know I don't have it. I can't talk to him directly, but I wanted to ask him this question. Let's the term African booty scratcher, which happened, the chicken and egg metaphor, which happened first? Were Africans the first people, the Africans that came here in the 60s, were they the first people to disrespect the Black Americans, or did the Black Americans look down and low at the Africans? And Tim Black, I don't know your particular culture, but in the African culture, when somebody comes into your home, you welcome them. You show them around, you take them, you show them how things are done in your home. They are supposed to follow your rules and guidance and value system while they are in your house. If they leave your house, they can do whatever they want to do. But in the African culture, when somebody comes into your home, you are supposed to welcome them, offer them food, help them get situated, help them get started, and show them the path that is gonna work for them as they move along in that community, in that village, in that society. So, Tim Black, knowing this, I don't know if you knew this about the African culture, but knowing this, as a guest to your country, did you welcome these people? Did you embrace them with open hands and tell them that, come, break bread with me? Let's build a community together. Let's put our resources together. I see you're Black, I'm Black. Let's fusion together. I'm going to show you how you succeed in America and how you can move ahead and win and be successful in America. Was that done, or did you look down on them? Did you call them dirty? Did you call them smelling? Did you spray body sprays on them because you felt they were stinking? And did you label them things like the African booty scratcher? In the 90s and 80s, I remember the voodoo joke where the comedian will always blow that pipe so that there's a air arrow that stings you, and every Hispanic, white, everybody made that African joke. Everybody understood that Africans were poor, unintelligent, lived in hurt, were still riding on the backs of lions. These were things that were used against the early arrivals of Africans to America. So when you came and you saw a Black person that looked like you, and they didn't welcome you, they didn't open their arms to say, my brother, come into my house, I will show you how it's done here, and you attacked them. But let's read what Grok has to say. You guys know how I believe in Grok. So the phrase likely emerged in the late 20th century with reference suggesting it gained traction in African American communities as a way to differentiate themselves from African immigrants. Like I was saying, Tim Black, the African immigrants came in the 60s, looking horrid, looking, I don't know, a different kind of Black, but they are Black. In the 60s and 70s, and I understand that you were going through your own struggles and segregation and all the different difficulties that you were going through. But could you have had space to welcome these people? Could you have had space to accommodate these people so they look at your culture and values as the given law of the land and believe in it, as opposed to going in their own corner and redefining themselves, re-examining themselves, and reprinting their own cultures and separating themselves from you? Now you have two distinctive people. So who make the mistake? In the African culture, again, the host is the welcoming person. You welcoming me into your home. Maybe in the African American culture, in the Black American culture, that's not the way it works. When you come to my home, you have to feel free. You have to connect with me. You have to talk to me. You can approach me differently. But maybe there's a miscommunication somewhere. But this is the early 60s. And the first thing that I get was that the Africans were not met with love from the host, who were the Black Americans. I'm not saying everybody, but we're talking in the context of this boycott. African Americans highlighting perceived cultural and historical disconnect. A historical disconnect. It is often tied to stereotypes of Africans as primitive. So ADA's folks and this radical FBA, some of them, FBAs are some of the most amazing people I've ever had to work with and partner with. I've had great conversations, intellectual conversations with some foundational Black Americans that have structured me and opened my eyes. And of course, with every group, they're radicals. And when you had the ADAs lose their terrorist status, their violent status, they had to plant themselves somewhere else. And they picked the FBA movement. So these folks see Africans as primitive and uncivilized, rooted in racist media portrayals from the 70s onwards, such as Save the Children, or Care, all of those conversations and they're still doing those commercials to this day. Last night I saw Drill the Water, something that's a white pastor somewhere trying to rescue an African child that has not drank. They're drinking some dirty water somewhere. And this has been indoctrinated in the minds of the American people. And when they see the Africans, they see people that are subhumans, people that are beneath them. And they're not willing to welcome them in their home. They're not willing to accept them in their home. For the most part, not everybody. Of course, we're not in this conversation. I'm not painting a brush. We're having a conversation to try to understand what is at the origin of this African boycott. I'm not interested at the superficial level, at the narrative that's going. I'm trying to understand why we are divided and why we see each other as something other than a unit that can be fused, forged, and brought together for something stronger. So, these images fueled misconceptions about African cultures, contributing to the term used as a slur. A 1991 film, Boys in the Hood, is credited with popularizing the phrase. 1991. They actually put it in a movie where a character uses it to insult another for embracing African heritage. It is a taboo by the ADAS community for the moderate, more progressive FBAs that want to open dialogue, want to network and partner with Africans. It is a taboo. I think they call it tethering. I don't know. There's something, they have a label that they brand for their own foundational Black brothers that want to open channels of communication towards Africans, because Africans are beneath them. They are the super Black people. Or at least they blame Africans for selling them out to slavery. White folks today are talking about I didn't slave you. I didn't enslave you. It's not my responsibility to pay reparation. And they're willing to heed to that. They're willing to say, oh, I understand. We need to come together. We need to do kumbaya. But then they look at Africans and say, yes, you sold me out to slavery. You enslaved me, and you're beneath. First of all, you don't have water. I see the commercials. You are poor, you're dirty, you're primitive, and you're uncivilized. And you're coming to our civilized country. That is the massa, the slave that lived in the house, and the slave that lives in the farm mentality. You are beneath me. The African is beneath the ADOS per their perception, per people like Team Black. And that's why he's pushing aggressively for this boycott. Sources like the Urban Dictionary claim the term originated from a literal interpretation suggesting it referred to enslaved Africans forced to perform degrading tasks like scratching their enslavers' buttocks. However, the etymology lacks historic evidence and seems more speculative, possibly conflating the term with broader racist stereotype. This is black on black crime for no reasons. The phrase is often used in schoolyard bullying, particularly targeting African immigrant children or darker skinned black children with African features, regardless of their actual origin. So, within black people, so even FBAs, if you are dark skin, and you have more African features, even though you have you have lineage in here, you were bullied at school by other black Americans. So Team Black, this is how far back it goes. Because Africans have not always been here. They started coming here in the 60s and 70s, and you never welcomed them. You insulted and dehumanized them. And in return, from what you said, if you attack me, dehumanize me, insult me, antagonize me, at some point I will be defensive. It does not mean that my retaliation is correct, but from everything you said, you disrespected the people, you dehumanized them, and they fought back. They bought into the propaganda that was sold to them that somehow you are lazy, incompetent, you cry, you whine. They bought back and used it against you because you originally, instead of welcoming them, you insulted, antagonized, dehumanized them. So it was tick for tat. How come in 2025, a war, an attack that was started in the 60s and 70s is manifesting itself today as the reason, the raison d'etre that you're giving for a boycott for an African business? You see how it doesn't pass the smell test? You see how it's easy to show that you have roots in the ADOS movement, the hate pressure group movement called ADOS, that is no different than the Hamas, the Hezbollah, the ISIS. They've just not gone to become violent, but they have that inherent ability when you see what they're doing to Africans and historically have done to other Black people. What would have happened if these people came to your country, as you like to call it? It's not their country. Europeans have never distinguished between a German that just got here and Germans that came here during the colonial period. But Africans, Black Americans are always distinguishing. You're in my country. You just came to my country. You cannot have any kind of power. You cannot have any kind of right. But Europeans are banding together. They're forming unions together. You cannot tell who is German, who is Nordic, who is Icelandic, who is what. Because they come from different places, speak different languages. But when they come to America, they are one. They're not gatekeeping, they're one. The Russian, the Germans, the all of these people that have fought historic wars over the years, when they come to America, they are one. You cannot tell who's a Russian unless you hear their name. It has a Russian sounding name. You cannot tell who's Ukrainian. You cannot tell who is Latvian. You cannot tell who is Croatian. You cannot tell who is French, who is Polish, because they have fused into we're just white. We're Caucasians. But see, for blacks, the family, the strongest unit that is supposed to embrace and say, listen, we cannot grow. You cannot grow. Where are you going to grow from? You are a group of people that are clearly defined. How do you grow your numbers? By just having kids with yourself or having kids with other black people to grow that family and owning that resource and guiding and controlling that resource? How do you multiply? At some point, all of you are going to be siblings. You have to push aggressively because it's a competition for resources. You have to say we don't have the numbers. How do we grow the numbers? Hispanics have overtaken you already. Asians are probably going to overtake the FBA family. How does the FBA family grow to overtake Hispanics? How do Hispanics overtake you? Are they all Mexicans? No, they're not all Mexicans. The Mexicans, El Salvadorians, Hondurans, Guatemalans, they all came and formed a coalition. The Aztecs, the old people that were here, did not claim ownership of the country. There were Mexicans here long, 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 long time ago, maybe even before some blacks. But let's say after the blacks. They're not gatekeeping anything. They brought everybody under the tent. But they kept their identity. The Honduran is still going to be proud to be from Honduras. The Guatemalan is going to be proud to be a Guatemalan. The Dominican, all of these people, they brought all of them under the Latino and Hispanic umbrella. But see, with us blacks, the foundation of Black American don't want to have anything to do with the African. The African don't want to have anything to do with the foundation of Black American. The Haitians don't want to have anything to do with the Jamaicans, the Black Cubans, the Black Colombians, the Black Brazilians. Nobody. We're secluded. We're divided. And that's why that number is staying at 12 million. Gatekeeping, there's some things that you can gatekeep, but you cannot gatekeep numbers. You will perish. 46 million has been evaporated. I want you to know that you're third in line in terms of population. Immigrants overtook you. And you should be thankful that white people are still saying that they're not going to let Africans flood. Because if just African is a continent of 1.4 billion people. If 20 million Africans, not even 20 million, matter of fact, if 5 million Africans migrate from Africa into the country of immigrants, they will overtake you too if you don't want to partner with them. And that's a weakness in the Black American fabric. The identity that you're going to exclude yourself and stay small and remain in your little pockets. People are going to come crush you over there. especially when you own nothing. So as you can see, the argument that Team Black is putting that, oh, they're being disrespected. You've been disrespecting Africans since the day they stepped in this country. You've not welcomed them. You've not embraced them. You've not shown them how to succeed. Some other person did. Some other person showed them. And so their loyalty tilted towards that person. There's no school that tells an African that when you're coming to America, don't go stay in the Black community. They say it in the news. You see it in the news that in one particular day, there were 34 shootings in Chicago, in Baltimore, in Detroit, in Tennessee, in wherever you have a vast conglomerate of Black Americans. Why would anybody want to go live there? Why? Why would anybody want to go raise a family there? It doesn't matter whether it's true. It's the news. You cannot blame them, just as the news portrayed Africans as uncivilized, uncanny, uncultured, and you embraced it. And when you saw the Africans come, you displayed that level of ignorance. The African might be ignorant to think that the inner cities are not safe. They could be very safe, but the news says not safe. So who is controlling you to hate yourself? Who is controlling you to hate somebody that looks like you? Both parties are being controlled. The question is why? Why is somebody expressly ensuring that you stay small, you don't grow in terms of numbers? How can a community that has a purchasing power of 1.2 trillion US dollars own nothing, control nothing? And this community is not making any strive or attempt at owning resources either at home or abroad. How? How is this humanly possible that the wealthiest Black people anywhere in the world own nothing? And they are making no attempts to own resources. And understand, it is a global world. You do not longer need to own land only in America. The Chinese are buying up land across America. They're not Americans. That's owning resources. The Chinese own TikTok. The richest man in America is a South African. That is ownership of resources. Not he does not own TikTok. Does not TikTok's corporate office is not X's corporate office is not in Johannesburg. It's not in Durban. Tesla does not have a corporate office in Pretoria. Starlink does not have a corporate office anywhere in South Africa. All in the United States. One of the owners of Google is a Russian. Came from Russia. And somehow, Black Americans, the aiders community, the believers in this foundational stuff, are believing in a logic of gatekeeping. When people are coming into your country to build resources, you are pushing for isolation and gatekeeping. Instead of going outside the world and build wealth and bringing it back home if you want to, or living your best life out there. And Team Black and people like Team Black, there's this guy, Tariq, just by his name, Tariq, anything he says should be a joke. Not that the name is Black, not that the name is funny. It's just that somebody with that kind of African name is is the brains behind the African boycott, and people are following him. Tariq isn't what? His name again alone should have eliminated him from the conversation. It is like the skit where Dave Chappelle was a Klansman. That's exactly the way this Tariq guy is. An African pushing Black Americans to advocate against Africans. If any of you remember that skit where Dave Chappelle was supposed to, I could look it up. Dave Chappelle was supposed to be a Klansman, but he was Black and he was blind. That's Tariq. And like I said, there's a lot of similarities between Ada's and the Klan's pressure group, racist group. The only difference is that Black people cannot be racist because they have access to no resources.
Tim Black.
Black American delineation has nothing to do with anti-African, anti-Caribbean, or anti-other Black nations. It's about preserving culture, preserving inheritance, setting aside a particular group so that they are not forgotten. They don't want their ancestors, the sacrifice of their ancestors. They don't want the sacrifice of their people to be forgotten. You say that they don't have culture. You say that they don't have identity. And when they decide to set themselves apart, you say that they shouldn't. And no other culture is expected to absorb everybody else except Black Americans.
Yep.
You don't go to Jamaica and say, you got to accept this as Jamaican. You don't go to Haiti and say, you got to accept this as Haitian. Everybody else can have their identity. But when it comes to Black Americans wanting to set themselves apart, you say, oh, no, you guys you're xenophobic, you're Zionist. No, stop gaslighting them. Are there some extremists? Yes. But that doesn't represent the whole group. It's important that this group is set aside because they do have an inheritance. They have a special tie to this land and a special history to this land, and they deserve that observation.
And I appreciate this clip from my brothers from Reset Race, Actify Press. It was a great clip, and the young lady in the clip. Well put, sister, well put. You know, when she said, don't let them gaslight us, stop gaslighting Black people. Black people, stop gaslighting yourself into acting, into believing that they don't understand. They get it. You know, it gets to a certain point with these trolls that they'll have you questioning reality like you'll say, maybe they don't understand. Let me continue to explain.
When I say the things I say, it's not to really look down on anybody. When he says Black people, don't let them gaslight you. Who's he talking about? Who is gaslighting Black people? Other Black people. But they don't call them Black people, they call them Africans. At the heart of this conversation, this is two Black people fighting each other, Black on Black crime. He's talking to his tribe of Black people. Black people, don't let them gaslight you. Like the lady said, we want to safeguard our culture. We want to save this. We want to keep this. We want to hold on to this. But what are you trying to hold on that somebody's trying to take away? The boycott is about hair braiding saloons. What about that are you trying to hold on to? You're boycotting businesses, African businesses. How is that taking away from your culture? Soul food is the fabric of the Black American culture. You do not have anywhere across America a soul food chain restaurant for non-African Americans to eat out there. That's gatekeeping and holding on to your culture. And nobody has come in and forced you to expose your soul food. Some people have tried and you've shut that thing down. You want to hold it into your own. You don't want to put it out there. But braids are not yours. Braids are not yours. Dreadlocks are not yours. They're collectively ours. All Black people, including you. Nobody can take the way you speak, your mannerisms, your attitude. That is your lived experience. The kids born in this country are going to pick that up. The white kids pick that up. Eminem can rap. Black people can sing country music. Black people can sing rock. What I started from, they are the founders of it. This is something that when it comes into the public space, it becomes good for public consumption. Chicken. It's known that a lot of Black folks consume chicken. What are the major Black-owned chicken franchise businesses in America? What are the major chicken franchises in America? KFC, Popeyes, you know all of them, right? Just name a few. How many of those are Black-owned that are historically across the country? And whenever somebody says chicken, it could be in a derogatory sense, they would reference Black folks. Why are Black folks not running the chicken industry if it's something that they are particularly interested in? How many fast food chain, national fast food chain? I don't want to hear excuses. Oh, we cannot get loans. They give loans to this people. I don't want to hear those excuses. How many? You know why? Because you want to keep it, you want to gatekeep. Like she said, you want to hold on to it as opposed to putting it out there for people to consume. And people like my brother, my ADOS brother here, Team Black, is supportive of it. And he's saying, Black people, don't let them gaslight you. Who is them? Africans. And in the question, sub-Saharan Africans, who are 110% Black people. So what he's saying is Black people, don't let Black people gaslight you. How does that make sense? You know why it makes sense? Because for Team Black, they and the lady that just spoke, they are a superior Black people. And the Africans, that's why they have to distinguish. And the only way you distinguish between the two Black people is one is African, beneath, and the other is Black American, superior.
Myself. But they got it the first time. Fam, they just want our resources. They want our resources. They want...
Team Black Americans are the wealthiest. You did a video and I watched it and it was a lot of ignorance, but it was an amazing video nonetheless. You were comparing Black Americans with Black other groups across the world. And Black, by far and a mile, Black Americans stood out. And for you, this was justifications that Black Americans don't need to be subjugating themselves to partner or feel like they're down against that compared with Nigerians, Haitians, Bahamian, Barbados, Barbadians, I don't know how you call them, Jamaicans, across South Africans. You covered the basis. Yes, Team Black, you are promoting Black hate because you are saying and telling one group of Black people that they are better, they're superior than, and should not partner with another group when both of them can put their resources together. You have no resources, Team Black. Talent is not a resource. Land, assets, those are resources. You have no political capital, no political power, you have no control. You're the richest people in the world with no power. Sure, you can pull your dollars and make things happen, but you cannot, there's no territory that you control. There's no industry that you control. Indians own, Indians, the Asian Indians, own 64% of the hospitality business in America. Hispanics own about 50 to 60% of construction in America, and lawn, grass, all this kind of lawn jobs, housekeeping, all of that stuff. What resources do Black Americans have, or Africans in America? What resources do they have? At the rankings of incomes in America, the Indians are at the top. The Asians are at the top. Indians, Bangladeshi, Pakistani, Chinese, all these people are at the top. The bottom is the Black folk. You know why, Team Black? We don't own resources. We work hard, we have purchasing power, but we don't have resources. So when you're saying people are taking your resources, it's a lie. You have no resources. What you should be advocating for is looking at the resources that the white man is stealing out of Africa and saying, no, I want to partner with the African brother, so now I can have and own resources. You could have the Team Black International Theme Park across 54 African countries. Team Black, you will be a billionaire if you did that. You went to Africa and you put the Team Black theme park in all sub-Saharan African countries. You will be a billionaire. You would own resources. You would have land and you would have connection. But you're sitting in your basement and you're dividing yourself against yourself. And that's the hatred that's coming from your belief in your ADOS movement.
There's something that Black people have in America that nobody else will have. It's our history. It's our struggle. It's our unique positioning, being here in the country as long as we've been here.
It's yours. It is your identity. Nobody's trying to take that from you. Nobody's trying to be that. Nobody's trying to supplant that. That is your heritage, and that's what makes you unique. Does not mean that that's what puts food on your table. It does not mean that that should hold you from your own growth. Culture, your heritage, you cannot lose it because you form a partnership with somebody from Jamaica, from Cuba. No. You don't lose that because you've acquired resources in Burundi. You've acquired resources in Namibia. You started a coffee plantation in Kenya or in Ethiopia. You went out there, you bought land, and you planted. You don't lose your identity because you did that. There's not one single person. A child that is born in America that is Black is going to gravitate to the Black culture. They're going to speak like you. They're going to sound like you. They're going to act like you because they're born here and they're being told that they are Black, and they're going to gravitate to the dominant Black culture. This is normal. If I went to Nigeria today and I stayed with the Yoruba people and I had a child in Nigeria on Yoruba land, my child would be like a Yoruba child because they play with Yoruba children, they speak Yoruba, they communicate, and their mannerisms are going to be like Yoruba people. That does not mean that the Yorubas are losing their culture. That just means that somebody has added, has embraced their culture, and is taking it now to the world. It's a beautiful thing. It's a good thing. You're not losing. Losing means nobody wants to use your culture. But that's not what's happening to the Black American culture. Everybody wants to copy it. You would think that that should be the dominant culture. That should be what everybody wants to embrace. But see, Black Americans don't want that for the majority of people. They want to gatekeep. They want to hold on. They don't want to share. If you see a bunch of Korean kids doing breakdancing and rapping and sounding like Americans, Black Americans be upset. They get mad. They're like they're stealing what's ours. It belongs to us. No other person should have access to it. You know why? You know why it feels that way? Because you're gatekeeping. Instead of putting it out there so everybody knows the origin of it and they can use it, you are hiding it. And so people are not going to give you credit if they took it from you because they know you don't want to share it. So the problem is with the gatekeepers, the ADOS people, which you are fairly part of.
As long as this has been a country before this was a country. You know, it's the fabric of the country itself. It's mixed in with Black people. And that's the currency.
And that's true. But you don't hear Hispanics have this conversation. You think what? El Salvadorians and Mexicans eat the same kind of food? They speak the same similar language with enunciations and pronunciations that are a little different. El Salvadorians are more petite people. Mexicans are taller, bigger people. Mexicans think they're fancy, more civilized Hispanics, Spanish-speaking people. But they come together. They form a partnership. But in the Black people's space, there's division, there's hatred, there's the logic and perception of somebody taking something that does not belong to them. This is America. If you are here, you are supposed to be here. The Constitution says that. There are no more Americans than other Americans. You are all Americans. Whether you've been here for 400 years, you're not more American than somebody who has been here for 5 years and just swore into their Americanship. The white folks don't remind the new white folks that you're just here. This is my country. You're just here 2 months ago. White people go to England and marry English women, marry German women. They're not reminding them that you are less of an American than me. I'm a aboriginal, a Native American, and you should subject yourself to me. I owned you essentially. You cannot come to my country and have more rights than me. No, this is America. Let's all work together and build the Black community that we want to see. There's a continent out there that it's waiting and begging for a collaboration. And people are pushing for division, pockets, breakup. To be able to fight a European enemy so that there should never be a Hitler again. They created NATO, countries that came together so that they are stronger. And whenever there's a potential Hitler-esque kind of character, NATO is going to suppress it so that there's never a need for a second world war again. But in the Black American family, The objective is gatekeeping. The goal is division and separation of who is black from where and who is black from the origin and who is what. How does that build you? How does that build me? How does that create a marketplace where we can share ideas and share resources? I have land. You have money, but we're not talking to one another. We don't like one another. You think you're superior to me. I think you are just not welcoming of me. I keep my land. You keep your money. You buy the white man's product. I sell my land to the white man. What is the difference between you and me? So, I didn't want this part to be this long, so let's wrap it up. If you're liking this content so far, go ahead on the page on the Village Boy Podcast, like, subscribe, leave your comment. Let's build a community of people. We used to have the fights of light skin, dark skin. Now we're having fights of Africans, Egyptians, Africans in your book, Tim Black. Are those the Africans you're talking about, or you're talking about the Nigerians? The poor, dirty, uncivilized Africans. Is that who are you talking about? But let's like, subscribe, share, and let's push this hatred out of our communities. It's your host, the Village Boy.